Picture this. It's the 1998 FIFA World Cup final. The stage is set for the coronation of Brazil and its superstar. But instead of a celebration, we got one of the biggest mysteries in sports history. And it all went down in 72 minutes of pure, unadulterated chaos. And that's the big question, right? It's puzzled everyone for decades. How does the best player on the planet just vanish from the starting lineup, only to reappear looking like a ghost of himself? Let's get into it. So, to really understand this whole mystery, you've got to understand the man at the center of the storm. Because this wasn't just any player we're talking about. This was Ronaldo. And the phenomenon, man, that nickname was perfect. By '98, Ronaldo wasn't just a great striker. He was a force of nature. His speed, his power, that impossible finishing. It was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. They called him that for a damn good reason. Now, just think about the pressure cooker he was in. You've got the undisputed best player in the world, check. The reigning champs, Brazil, are on the brink of a historic 5th title, check. And where's it all happening? In Paris, against France, the host nation. I mean, you literally cannot write higher stakes than that. And then there's the money. $200 million. That's how much Nike had tied up in a deal with the Brazilian team. And let's be real, Ronaldo was the global face of that whole operation. Tuck that number away because it becomes a huge part of the story later on. Okay, so let's jump to the day of the final itself. This is where things go completely off the rails. It all comes down to this one crazy window of time, just about 72 minutes that turned everything on its head. This timeline is just wild. So 75 minutes before kickoff, the official team sheet drops. No Ronaldo. The world's media goes into an absolute frenzy. Can you imagine? Then, with just half an hour to go, a new sheet appears. He's back in. But when he walked onto that field, you could just tell something was deeply, deeply wrong. He looked vacant, like he wasn't even there. And what happened next? Well, it was a train wreck. Brazil just fell apart. France, with a god-tier Zinedine Zidane, ran circles around them. 3-0, a complete and utter humiliation. And right at the center of it all was this ghost-like performance from Ronaldo. It was just haunting. So the billion-dollar question, what on earth happened? With no clear explanation, the rumor mill went into overdrive. Theories started flying from medical emergencies to some pretty wild conspiracies. Now this right here, this is probably the most powerful piece of the puzzle. It comes from his teammate and roommate, Roberto Carlos, and his firsthand account is just chilling. I mean, read those words. It paints a picture of a terrifying medical event. So, after what his teammates saw, they rushed Ronaldo to a hospital. The doctor's initial take was that he'd had a convulsive seizure, probably brought on by the insane levels of stress and exhaustion, which, makes sense. But, and this is the big but, if he just had a seizure, why on earth was he playing in the World Cup final just a few hours later? Okay, so let's break down the big 3 theories. You've got the seizure, which has strong eyewitness accounts and that hospital visit, but letting him play afterwards is a huge red flag. Then there's the idea of a nervous breakdown. Ronaldo himself has made some vague comments that kind of point that way, but it doesn't really line up with the violent physical stuff his teammates saw. And then the conspiracy, sponsor pressure, that $200 million Nike deal. Did they force a sick man to play? It's a powerful motive for sure, but there's never been a shred of hard evidence. No smoking gun. People were so outraged and confused that this story just wouldn't die. Years later, it got so big that the Brazilian Congress, the actual government, launched a full-blown investigation to try and get some real answers. So what did they find? Well, they officially cleared Nike, saying there was no concrete proof they forced the issue. But they absolutely tore into the Brazilian medical staff. They blasted them for poor communication and basically asked the same thing we're all asking. What were you thinking letting him play? But in the end, the investigation didn't give us the clean answer everyone wanted. The mystery, well, it officially remained a mystery. But you know what? That's not where this story ends. Not even close. What happens next is, in its own way, even more extraordinary than the mystery itself. This is a comeback story for the ages. Just look at this, it's night and day. After the disaster in '98, he suffered these catastrophic knee injuries. I mean, career-ending stuff for most athletes. But he fought his way back. And when he stepped onto the field for the 2002 final, there were no ghosts, no mystery. It was all about pure, triumphant redemption. At that 2002 tournament, he was just on another level, an absolute machine. He scored an incredible 8 goals, won the Golden Boot as the top scorer, and silenced every single person who had ever doubted him. And in the final match, the biggest game on the planet, against a powerhouse German team, he scored not one, but both goals in a 2-0 victory. Brazil were world champions again. It has to be one of the greatest individual comeback stories in the history of sports, period. So, that leaves us with this final thought. What really defines Ronaldo's incredible story? Is it the unanswered questions and the haunting mystery of that final in Paris? Or is it the undeniable triumph and sheer human resilience he showed the world 4 years later? It's something to think about.